So now we move the money market. So we are in the second market now, money market. So the story of the money market is pretty straightforward. Okay? How much money that people wants to hold and how much money people wants to save. Very simple, right? So if you have, let's say, 1 billion rupiah, how much money you want to hold? And the definitions of hold is you need to spend anytime, okay? So you don't need to go to a bank or something to get your money back, okay? Whereas how much money you save is really the amount of money that you want to set aside and then put it in a saving. And usually you put in a saving, you receive some interest rate, right? So that is the starting point of the money market here. Now, at this stage, because this is only the first meeting of the workhorse, let's make an assumption, okay, that the only way you save is you put your money in a bonds market. Okay? So we still do not have banking sector here, it's just bonds, okay? Because bonds doesn't have to be banked. It can be issued by a company, it can be issued by the government, okay? But the story remains the same. How much you want to keep in your hand, or in terms of checking account. I don't know what do you call it in Indonesia? Checking account. Jana and Posey, what is the Indonesian? Giro, correct. Okay, giro. So either you want to hold cash in your wallet, okay, in your pocket, some cash money, cash, and giro, okay, because giro is very liquid, you can spend anytime, or alternatively you save. But as I said, at this stage, what you save is only bonds, okay? There's no other form here. So when you are in that position, what money market concept tells you is that your decision will be determined by the interest rate. If the interest rate is high, then you will prefer to put more money in the bonds. But if your interest rate is low, then you prefer to hold money in your hand. Let me repeat. In this case, money in your hand can be cash or euro or demand deposit. Okay? So, with that simple concept, then you have this equation. So, the money demand, what you demand, is negatively related with the interest rate. Because if the interest rate is high, you want to put in a saving. You want to have less money demand here, right? But then you also have the output value here. Okay. The reason we put dollar value here just to indicate that this is in monetary terms, okay? So this is the output level. And look at the sign, positive. Actually, the position of that positive sign is to be right above the Y here. Okay. So let's move here. Okay, so something like that. Let me see this. Okay, so you have the relation now. Okay, that is your money demand. What about the money supply? Well, money supply is basically determined by the monetary authority of Bank Indonesia. Okay, and the job of the Bank Indonesia is always try to match whatever money demand and the money supply. So in this case, we know the money demand is negatively related with interest rate, so I can draw this money demand negative slope, right? And money supply is just practical because this is determined by Bank Indonesia. So if the money demand is here, okay, and the output is here, then the money supply will be here. If you increase the money supply, boom, like this, look what happened with the interest rate. The interest rate goes down, output will go up. So In other words, this guy, this practical guy, that is the policy that you can play around with. Okay. So again, this is just a repetition. When money supply means money demand. This is what I said 1 minute ago. So suppose I increase the money supply from here to here. Look what happens. Interest rate goes down, right? And we know the story of if interest rate goes down, remember the earlier investment equation? If interest rate goes down, what happens with the investment? Goes up, right? And if investment goes up, output will go up, right? Now, that is the IS curve. What about the story of LM curve? Well, I just mentioned LM is about money supply, and that is partly determined by the central bank. Okay? How much money supply that the central bank wants to provide to the economy. Okay? Now, traditionally, that relation between money supply and interest rate traditionally can be drawn by taking the positive slope like this. Okay? And the story is like this. Suppose money supply is determined by central bank already, so exogenously determined. Okay? Then the interest rate will follow according to the market. Okay? So suppose the Bank Indonesia determine the amount of money supply, and the economy is, operating in such that they generate money demand, because money demand depends on the economic growth, right? So suppose money demand is determined, then that equilibrium of money supply and money demand, which is the interest rate, will follow. So in other words, the first story is a story where money supply is exogenous. You follow me? So Bank Indonesia began to determine the money supply. So that means exogenous. And then let the economy determine what is the money demand. And once the economy determines that money demand, interest rate is established. So in that case, interest rate is endogenous. And that is on the left-hand side. So that's why traditionally people draw LM curve. By the way, the name of the curve is LM. It's positive slope, like that. But in recent years, there's a change in the paradigm. There is hardly central bank in the world now doing that. Maybe there's only 1, 2, but most and majority of central banks around the world now, what they play around is not the money supply, but the interest rate. So the exogenous policy variables is the interest rate. So what you do is that let the interest rate determine, and then the money supply will adjust according to what is the economy. Of course, the result is the money supply will equal to money demand, because that's the equilibrium, right? But that size of money supply is basically directly, not indirectly, but directly related to interest rate. So the difference between left and right, the left is you set the money supply and let the interest rate determined by the market. Whereas on the right-hand side, you set the interest rate and let the money supply determined by the market. Is that clear? Now, if you're taking macroeconomics, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, then your professor will give you the left-hand side, because that's the way it was in the past. So money supply is the key monetary policy, but nowadays it's no longer so. Nowadays, what is called the monetary policy is the interest rate policy, basically. The money supply will follow according to the market. Now, for the rest of the semester, and also to be consistent with Oliver Blanchard's book, from now on, we always use the right-hand side because that's more relevant for today.